Konnichiwa minasan, I'm Masayu and this is manga you may have missed. Truth be told, this manga is not as unknown as others I've focused on. You may have heard of it. Today we look at Shuichi Shigeno's recently completed drift racing manga, Initial D. Initial D was written by Shuichi Shigeno with assistance from professional car driver Keiichi Tsuchiya. It began publishing in 1995 and finished in 2013. It was serialized in Kodansha's Young magazine and collected into 48 tankobon volumes. Several anime adaptations have been made of Initial D's various story arcs, made by several different companies, including Obi Planning, Studio Comet, Studio Gallop, Pastel, ACGT, and Synergy SP. A live-action film was created by Avex and Media Asia in 2005. Both the anime and the manga were originally licensed in English by Tokyopop, which has since closed its North American division. They published 33 of the 48 volumes. The anime is now licensed by Funimation in North America and Madman Entertainment in Australia, but the manga has seen no new release. The first chapter, or volume, is called Let's Buy an 8.6. It's set in the summer of 1990X on Mount Akina in Gunma Prefecture. A car comes down the road. It takes the curves at high speed, using a technique known as drifting. The car pulls away, leaving Mount Akina to return to silence. We change scene to S City, also in Gunma Prefecture, specifically the Prefectural High School. A voice is looking at the price of a car. 1.3 million yen is a bit expensive, but the color's nice. He says he should give up on the Sylvia and look at an 8.6, that's a bit more realistic. It has to be a front-engine, rear-wheel drive car at any rate. He turns to the person next to him to check if he's listening. Takami has been listening and asks what the price of an 8.6 would be, commenting that it's a weird name for a car. An 8.6 will run the unnamed boy 300,000 yen without insurance. He has saved up a little over 50,000 yen. Even with their gas station jobs, the two boys could only hope to earn an additional 120,000 yen if they work hard all summer. They're interrupted by a girl that asks if they work part-time, and okay, I can't ignore it anymore. The fucking lips, man. Shigeno-sensei is great at drawing cars, great at portraying motion in a still image, and his figures are, if not natural-looking, at least in the correct proportions. But the man cannot draw normal lips to save his life. The girl's surname is Mogi, but aside from that, she doesn't provoke a response. She gets irritated, asking why it's so odd for her to talk to them. She asks how often they work to get that salary, and is shocked to learn that it's a full-time wage. The two tell her that it's pretty standard wage for a high school student, and she explains she's never had a job. She wishes them good luck and invites them out after finals are over. Takami is silent for a second, then explains that he hasn't spoken to Natsuki Mogi in over a year. They used to talk and be in the same club until summer of second year. At that point, Takami did something and she's avoided him ever since. The other boy asks if he assaulted her. Quite the opposite, actually. He beat up her boyfriend in the club room. After that, he quit the club and Natsuki started avoiding him. The other boy says that's to be expected and asks what possessed him to beat up an upperclassman. Takami declines to explain, simply saying that he didn't like the guy. The other boy says that Takami's always been like that. Normally he just stares into the distance looking sleepy, but every once in a while he snaps and his personality changes. Takami explains that he's the type of kid that gets mad and then strong after crying. The two walk home, the other boy still immersed in the car magazine. His name is Itsuki. I bring it up now because it doesn't get mentioned for 22 more pages. Itsuki asks Takami if he wants to pool their money together and get a loan to buy an 8.6. Takami doesn't want to, asking why Itsuki is so desperate to get a car when his family already has one. Itsuki explains, because it's an automatic transmission, a front-engine front-wheel drive, and runs on diesel. Obviously. Takami is of the opinion that a car is a car if it has four wheels and runs. Itsuki asks what the point of a car is if it's not a car that you can race down the mountain passes. Transportation? Takami, still speaking for me, asks why Itsuki wants to go to the mountain passes. Attacking the corners, of course! That's fun. Doing that? Itsuki complains that he just doesn't get Takami. Of course it's fun! Not that he's tried it. How can Takami call himself a man and not want to try it? Simply because he's bored with it. This confuses Itsuki as they both only received their licenses the previous month. You have to be 18 in Japan to take the test. Takami starts to explain, but Itsuki cuts him off, wanting to play a racing game before going to work. He makes sure to point out that the game is nothing like a real car, though it still excites him. Meanwhile, Natsuki waits for a car to pull up. She gets in, and the person in the car compliments her on her school uniform. Dear viewer, please try to keep an open mind as I try to explain as best I can the concept of enjo kosai, or compensated dating. The practice involves older men giving money or luxury gifts to attractive younger women in exchange for companionship and not necessarily sex. Female participants are school-aged to housewives. The most common connotation in Japan is that it's a form of child prostitution, but women's centers in Japan include the fact that it's usually the girl's time, not sexual activity, that is given in exchange for money. All told, it's a complex subject that is a significant subplot in this manga, and not one that I feel I understand enough to pass judgment on. Natsuki tells her papa about Takami's wages, and notes that her compensation is much higher, 300,000 yen. Is it really alright to be paying her that much? The man tells her that she's worth it, but Natsuki doesn't understand. Takami and Itsuki have reported for duty at the gas station. Itsuki is still trying to get Takami to pitch in for an 8.6. Another employee overhears them and compliments them on their taste. His name is Ikitani, and he's their senpai in that he's been working at the gas station longer. Takumi confesses that he's still not sure what an 86 is. Is it a Mazda? Ikitani and Itsuki start laughing at his ignorance, saying that he should know at least that much considering he works at a gas station. An 86 is a Toyota. Takumi and Itsuki are less familiar with it than Ikitani because they were in elementary school when the model changed and the 9.2 came out. Takumi says it doesn't sound all that great. His dad's store uses an old Toyota as a delivery car. They shout him down, saying that it's an inept comparison. The 86 is special. Itsuki asks Ikitani if he can join their street racing team if he gets an 86. Ikitani is the leader of the Akina Speed Stars. He invites them to come along to a gathering at Mount Akina that night. They don't have a car, so he offers to give them a lift in his Silvia S13. Not recognizing the name? Outside of Japan, the Nissan Silvia S13 was released in North America as the 240 SX and in Europe as the 200 SX. Takumi is nonplussed, but Itsuki is excited enough for both of them. The shift ends and the two take off, Ikitani promising to pick them up at the bus stop. Their boss, Tachibana, is well aware of their plans and asks which mountain they're going to. Ikitani tells him that Akina is the only place to go driving in the area and that his team claimed to be the fastest on the mountain. Tachibana responds that plenty of people claim to be the fastest on Akina, but back when he was a racer, there was only one. Ikitani calls him on it, asking if he intends to follow it up with, "And it was me!" No, he wasn't. There really was a legendary driver, and he's still out there. Ikitani is confused, as he knows all the drivers on Akina, and none of them are Tachibana's age. Tachibana apologizes for being so old. Tachibana explains that he doesn't drive at the same time as the young racers because now he runs a tofu shop. Ikitani is surprised at this fact. He delivers tofu to the hotel at Lake Akina in the early hours of the morning. The return trip has to be seen to be believed. He drives in all weather, seeing as he has to do it for business. He knows every inch of the road on Mount Akina. Tachibana claims that he'd bet the younger guy's 10 million yen that not a single driver on the mountain could beat him on the downhill run. Mount Akina's fastest racer is the tofu vendor's 86. Ikitani asks if he's serious about the bet. Tachibana thinks for a second and recalculates to 100,000 yen. That night, Takumi is thinking about Natsuki's words. He flashes back to their time in the soccer club. Natsuki's boyfriend is bragging about going out with her. He claims he's been teaching her fellatio to everyone's joking disbelief. Wow, must be really good at it to be able to teach it to others. Takumi is listening as he details his sexual exploits and eventually calls him on it. He challenges him, and this is the incident in which Takumi beat up Natsuki's boyfriend. Back in the present, he muses that he blacked out during the incident, and that when he came to, he discovered he had broken both the other guy's nose and his own fist. He's still not sure why he did it. The sign outside the storefront gives Takumi's surname as Fujiwara. Oh, look at that, they sell tofu. His dad stops him as he leaves, reminding him that he has to be up early in the morning. A cavalcade of cars passes by the gas station as Tachibana is locking up. He muses that he hasn't seen them before, but they're headed for Mount Akina. They aren't there for the hot springs, though. Tachibana wonders if something is going to happen at the mountain tonight. We join the Akina Speed Stars as they're ascending the mountain. Takumi, thus far, is not enjoying himself. Itsuki tells him to shut up, but Takumi claims he's scared. Ikitani isn't surprised, as it's Takumi's first time riding with a street racer. He pulls into a turn, leading to fresh shrieks from Takumi and admonishing from Itsuki. At the top of the mountain, the other racers ask if Takumi's alright, Ikitani saying that he didn't think it would be that scary. Takumi still looks sick. Itsuki calls him pathetic and asks if he's the type that screams when riding a roller coaster. Takumi just looks at him and calmly explains that he's never found a roller coaster particularly scary. Itsuki wouldn't understand even if he explained it. Itsuki asks what he means as we cut back to the Fujiwara house and shop. Takumi's dad, Bunta, suddenly receives a call from Tachibana. The two are old friends, and this is a social call. Tachibana mentions seeing Bunta's 86 earlier on its way back from the morning delivery, but it seems Bunta didn't notice him. Bunta interrupts to explain that it wasn't him. Tachibana is confused, as it was definitely Bunta's 86, but Bunta explains that although it was his car, it wasn't him driving. Takumi does the early morning delivery to the Lake Akina hotel now. Tachibana is taken aback and asks how long. Every day since 5 years ago. Back at the top of the mountain, a new group of cars pull up. The Speed Stars note that it's an outsider team. Ikitani recognizes the team sticker in shock. We focus on two people in particular. The group is from Mount Akagi, the Akagi Red Suns. They asked for the strongest racing team on the mountain. The second chapter, and I intend to look at the first three, is titled The Fastest, the Rotary Brothers. Ikitani introduces his group and says they consider themselves the fastest on Akina. We change back to Tachibana and Bunta's phone call as the former berates the latter for making his son drive since 7th grade. He never got caught, but still. And he has a license now, so what does it matter? We shift focus back to Akina. One of the people we focused on earlier tells another to make a proposal. Essentially, the Red Suns have come to the conclusion that always racing with the same people gets boring, so they should travel to other cities in the prefecture and race other teams every once in a while. They suggest such a matchup against the Speed Stars the next weekend. They drive around a bit, and have each side select a representative for a time trial uphill and downhill. Ikitani agrees, so the Red Suns decide to stick around and practice. They drive away with the Speed Stars following just to show off. Ikitani sticks around to explain what just happened to Takumi and Itsuki. It's a challenge, pure and simple, no matter how they phrased it. The Red Suns came merely to show off. Specifically, the two Takahashi brothers, the fastest on Mount Akagi. The brothers, the two we focused on, both drive Mazda RX-7s and are famous enough to have been in magazines. They're called the Rotary Brothers because RX-7s use rotary engines. Ikitani ditches them as he can't have anyone driving with him when he races for real, and takes off after the rest. Left in the dust, Itsuki bemoans their lack of cars. Takumi asks Itsuki if being a racer is really everything they're making it out to be. How do people get excited over something like that? Itsuki still can't understand why Takumi isn't entranced by it. Doesn't his blood stir when he hears that full throttle sound? Takumi doesn't quite understand. As the cars descend the mountain, the fabled brothers stop to talk. Keisuke asks what his brother thinks, and Ryosuke says they're just trash. Even the second-rate Red Suns racers could beat them easily. There's no need to send the best. Ryosuke isn't going to come the next week, but he says Keisuke should. They need to set an unbeatable course record on Akina. There are plans to do this on every course in the prefecture, as well as the surrounding ones, and then retire as legendary unbeatable racers. That's the Red Suns' fastest in Kanto project. Hey, at least it makes more sense than Project D. Ikitani, meanwhile, is still driving and lamenting that he can't catch a single one of them. The sound of car engines fades into the night. Hours later, the Red Suns have left and the Speed Stars have gathered back on top of Akina. None of them could keep up with the Red Suns. The gap is just too big. They've even spent money fine-tuning their machines. There's no way they can beat them. However, they can't run away from their home turf. They agree to the challenge, so they just have to do it. They decide to meet up the next day, and Ikitani drives Takumi and Itsuki home. In the car, Ikitani explains that most street racers hate losing. There's one unwritten law of the sport. You never lose to outsiders on your home course, no matter what. If they start racing, they'll understand. Another couple hours later, some of the Red Suns are still on Akina. Keisuke Takahashi and two no-names. It's almost 4 AM and Keisuke is running out of gas, so they decide to leave for now. As Keisuke tears down the road, he notes that the other two can't keep up. He decides to slow down and let them catch up when he sees a light in his mirror. He wonders which one it is. It's neither. It's a Toyota Sprinter Trueno, and it's gaining on him. Keisuke knows that it's not one of their cars and wonders who it is. It's too dark for him to tell the make of the car, but he decides to leave it in the dust before the second corner. Easier said than done. The third chapter is called Ultimate Tofu Vendor Drift, and the two-page spread shows just that. The car matches Keisuke perfectly, and he finally gets a good look at it. It's an 8.6. The Toyota AE86 had two model types, the Levin with fixed headlights and the Trueno with retractable ones. Both were exported as the Toyota Corolla. The 8.6 follows Keisuke as he heads down the mountain, losing ground on the straight but making up for it on the turns. This is a living nightmare for Keisuke. It shouldn't be physically possible. He's the second best in the Red Suns, but the 8.6 sticks to him like a magnet. It pulls ahead to Keisuke's confusion as there's a deadly pair of turns coming up. If he doesn't slow down, he'll crash. If you turn for the loose right turn, you'll run off the side at the sharp left. The 8.6 came in too fast. The centrifugal force will prevent him from straightening out to take the turn. Or at least that's what should happen. Before Keisuke's stunned eyes, the 8.6 shifts into the turn effortlessly, using what Keisuke calls inertia drift. He pulls himself to a stop, too exhausted to continue driving. He wonders if he's seen the ghost of a dead racer. The maneuver was too perfect to be believed. The only person Keisuke can think of that could do something like that is his brother. The other two Red Sun racers can't believe it either. Keisuke's pride as a racer has been shredded by a 10-year-old 8.6. The next day, Bunta wakes Takumi up for a phone call. He assumes it's Itsuki, but is surprised when it isn't. It was Natsuki, who arranges to meet him in town. He was surprised that she called. She's decided that she wants to patch things up between the two of them, but Takumi knows that there's nothing to patch up. Just like that, they're friends again. The two walk and talk, the conversation eventually turning into cars. As Takumi can drive, Natsuki suggests they go for a drive that summer. Takumi agrees, but warns that it's an old car they use for business. Natsuki says she doesn't care as long as it has a cassette deck. 1990X, people! The stirrings of passion begin to lay down kindling in Takumi's heart. Natsuki suggests that they go to the ocean, seeing as it's the summer. Just the two of them. Meanwhile, Ikitani is driving through the city. He pulls up in front of a tofu vendor with an 8.6 out front. He's come to find the legendary driver. The end. The Initial D anime is free to watch from Funimation on Hulu, both subbed and dubbed. I only watched the first episode of the first series, so this is for that series alone. The first episode is an almost scene-for-scene adaptation from the first 3 chapters. The animation is old, but not bad or limiting in any way. The style is simply one that isn't used anymore. An early form of CGI is used for the cars. It manages to blend rather well, and the distinction, while noticeable, isn't jarring. It gives Initial D a distinctive look that's all its own. The music is phenomenal. Japanese band Move performs all the openings and endings for the entire series, which is interesting considering that each series was done by a different studio. One thing that struck me most of all is that every character has a natural hair color. Everyone's hair is either brown or black, no neon blue in sight. The lips, however, are unchanged and remain just as silly looking. Two dubs of the anime have been done, one by Tokyopop and one by Funimation. The Funimation dub is the one I'm going to direct you to, and it's the one I watched. I think it's an excellent dub. The translations aren't exact word for word, but they're true to the spirit of the characters and get the same points across. The only glaring difference that I could see is that they made the Enjo Kosai scene a little less obvious. If you already know what's going on, you can see it as what it is, but if you don't know, you might think the man is a relative. From what I've read, the Tokyopop dub cuts this out. The Tokyopop releases also do something that's a huge pet peeve of mine. In translating, they change characters' names to Western ones. This isn't entirely their fault. The first Initial D product to be released in North America was a series of video games by Sega that had to have names changed when localized to comply with name length limits. To keep continuity, Tokyopop changed the names in the anime and subsequently in the manga to match. Thus, in the Tokyopop releases, Takumi is Tak, Itsuki is Iggy, Natsuki is Natalie, Ikitani is Cole, Ryusuke Takahashi is Rai, and Keisuke Takahashi is KT. I consider this a stupid and annoying practice and an insult to the original work. This was a long one. I apologize, dear viewer, although I have to admit, I'm proud of myself. I made it this entire review without a single joke about the D.